First hand up there. Are you any good at returning serves in tennis? Returning serves. Yeah. Okay, we're going to check you out in a few minutes. Maybe for the next 5 minutes, just try and warm up a little bit. Keep that. We'll see why in a moment or two. Okay, well, I've got 3 subject areas I want to cover today. The third one I might not get around to, depending if I get cut off a little bit early. First one about Generation Y, how do they interact with technology. Moving on to understand about how to communicate via advertising with Gen Y. This is all specific to Vietnam. And the third, just trying to understand a little bit about what works in advertising at the very important occasion of Tet in Vietnam. And if we get around to that, I'll show you an example of what I'd say is the best example of Tet advertising ever in terms of targeting Generation Y. I think Gio covered this one already in terms of who are Gen Y. Just repeat that, of course, one of their characteristics is that they are very savvy with regards to technology. So, how do they actually interact with technology? First of all, let me just give 1 or 2 basic stats. Surprisingly, internet penetration is 45% within Vietnam, which is really, really high and growing very, very strongly. And it actually, within Gen Y, that increases to something over 80%. So it's really higher than probably most people would expect. And they also spend a lot of time actually on the internet, over 5 hours on average, which is pretty significant and probably higher than a lot of other countries. This is from a Millward Brown survey where we looked at multiple screen usage. And what we found is that amongst Generation Y, we actually found that laptop usage and smartphone usage was actually higher than the global average. So one thing we find that even though you might think Vietnam's a developing country, in terms of adaptation of technology, it's actually really, really high. It's a little bit lower in terms of TV and also using tablets, but overall they spend 8 hours looking at multiple screens. I'm just going to show you a video in a moment of somebody who I'd say is quite typical of Generation Y, not just yet, T. Just in the same survey, we actually found that in terms of shifting, what does shifting mean? It means that when they're viewing one screen, they're actually shifting to another screen, as opposed to simultaneously where they're looking at 2 screens at the same time. As you might expect at the moment, most people are shifting from screen to screen. I just got a little bit of a video of a typical Gen Y consumer who's explaining how he actually shifts. Can you show the video?
Có nhiều đưa công việc nhiều, còn cái tái á là để dự trù cho hai mặt. HD chuyển qua kia, HD thì chuyển qua, nói chung thì công việc của em chơi trên máy này là công việc cũng có nè, lướt web hoặc là tin tức hoặc là xem mấy công nghệ hoặc là xem tin tức thể thao hay tin thời sự gì đó, hoặc là lên mạng xã hội, tin nhắn hay là Facebook này nọ. LG á, thì em chơi mấy cái game dung lượng nhiều rồi thôi, nó không có phân thuộc dạng là chơi mà online nhiều quá, dung lượng vừa thôi, hoặc là em có thể em đọc tin tức trên đó cũng được trong lúc sạc pin bằng cái này. Đó thì em có thể đọc tin tức bằng cái đó, còn cái này em chuyên để chơi game, còn có lúc em chơi game và em coi phim và em nghe nhạc. Giờ tập thì sẽ còn laptop, đó cho laptop nó lại hơn, mình nằm cũng được, hoặc là mình coi luôn.
Okay. So yeah, it's funny, but he's just moving from screen to screen, doing different things, different purposes. When we look at using the computer, using devices at the same time, we find that it's roughly equally divided between those who mesh and stack. So mesh is where they're looking at related content at the same time. Stack is where it's completely separate. Okay? So again, we'll listen to the same guy telling us a little bit about whether we think he actually meshes or stacks. So let's hear it.
Ví dụ mà em đang coi phim thì làm sao mình truy cập được mấy cái kia được nữa. Cũng có, nó sẽ ẩn dưới cái thanh ở dưới, nhưng mà vậy thì nó cũng không có hay. Tại sao cái này nó có nè, lên cho nó lẹ, nó không mất gián đoạn cái bộ phim của mình. Đó, chứ là công việc của mình đang làm giống như mình đang làm em đang mở cái file, giả dụ em đang ghi đóng chương trình, mà em xài một cái loại đó thôi, ví dụ tin nhắn Facebook lên một cái nó mở cái màn hình nhắn Facebook lên, đó là cái thanh dưới đó mở lên rồi chat.
Okay, so what he's really doing is stacking. He's using things at the same time, but they're not really related. They're not really for the same purpose. Now, I've got an example coming up, which is a great example of what we mean by meshing. Unfortunately, it's not an example in Vietnam, but it's a great case study. And this is where we bring out our tennis player. So, Roger Federer, can you stand up, please? You're going to return serve. So let me explain what's going on here. This is actually an Australian ad. Sorry. Big hat. So it's not Roger Federer. Okay, we'll see how he does anyway. Okay, so this is an Australian ad for Kia. It was a TV ad. We're going to play it in a moment or two, but why this was very clever is that it's actually meshed very well with another screen, which is an iPhone. Just give me a second. I've already downloaded the app, something I prepared yesterday. You won't be able to see this, but Roger Federer can. There's actually a tennis racket on there, and as this guy, Australian, apparently he holds the world record for the fastest serve ever. He's going to serve at you. You have to, when you hear the big swoosh as he's bombing into your head, you have to return the serve. Okay? So make me stand in the front there. He's going to play the ad in 1 second. When he's ready to serve and you hear the big swoosh, try and return. Please don't drop my iPhone. It's new iPhone 6.
Hi, I'm Sam Groth, professional tennis player and the world's fastest server. During the Australian Open, Kia is challenging you to return my serves live from your TV with your phone for the chance to win an all-new Serato Coupe Turbo. Simply download the app and it's game on. Okay, here comes the bomb down the tee. Hold your phone tight, get ready. Keep playing for your chance to win the all-new Serato Coupe Turbo. Download the app from your app store.
Score of 13 out of 100, which meant that you probably hit the ball, but probably went out of court somewhere. But well done, first time, good return serve. Anyway, that's a great example of what we mean by meshing in terms of having related content using 2 or more screens, something which will be perfect for communicating with Generation Y in Vietnam. So talking a little bit about my second area, not timed out just yet, just some characteristics of advertising that you can take on board if you're an advertiser in terms of communicating with Generation Y. One of the simple rules of advertising in Vietnam, this is across all age groups actually, is keep it simple, but I say not simplistic. By that I mean make sure that people can follow what you're advertising, don't make it too complicated or tricky. Don't move back and forth in time. People like to follow a nice story, but don't make it boring. There needs to be a story in there. If you're using music, people focus a lot on the lyric in Vietnam, so it's important that maybe your message is contained in the music lyric. If you're using a celebrity, and some celebrities are really overused in Vietnam, make sure that you're using them in the roles that they play when they're a celebrity, less so when they're at home doing the washing or something, which consumers find more boring and you're wasting your time with a celebrity. And don't just show product news. People just turn it off, it's too simplistic. Things that resonate in advertising, national pride is very, very strong. Striving for a better tomorrow, especially on education, works very, very well. And important for Generation Y, I think, and specific to them, is you can be individualistic, but in an acceptable way. Don't be individualistic where you put other people down, if you like. So if we move to the next slide, so you can just show this ad. It's an example of being individualistic by a local brand in an acceptable way.
Ai bảo làm vườn là phải chăm nụ ươm mầm. Ai bảo đan len là đan áo đan khăn. Ai bảo về tốc độ là không được điệu đà. Làm điều mình yêu theo cách mình yêu. Diana là con gái thật tuyệt.
That's not Rexona. Spend more time with other screens than TV. it only actually represents 3% of advertising spend in Vietnam in terms of digital. And the global average is around 25%. So if you're an advertiser, feel more comfortable about online, about digital. We've got clear evidence that it works, and it's massively underutilized in Vietnam. Instead, people, or advertisers, default to TV. This is from an actual survey result in Vietnam. Most of the branding has been masked. But here's a campaign, real campaign, using TV and online. In terms of the branded impact, there was a 2.5% uplift by TV, which represented most of the spend, and a 1% uplift for online. So combined 3.5%. But if you're just using TV alone, to go from the 2.5% to 3.5%, it would cost you 10 times more than using online and TV. So the message is they're very complementary. Feel comfortable using digital as a media. But it's not just about using different media, it's also about the creative as well. The creative may be even more important. So by using digital media, 1 or 2 basic rules. First of all, when people are accessing media online, they're very active and goal-orientated over the right here, and basically got the power to switch off at any moment in time, which is different to outdoor or TV, where if it's boring, they're stuck with it, especially in the traffic jam looking at outdoor. So the consumer has a lot of power over the actual content. So what are 1 or 2 of the rules of engagement here? I'll switch to this slide. Basically, you've got to get their attention early on. If you've got an ad, rolled media, less than 3 seconds before somebody decides whether they are going to continue watching the rest of the ad. So right from the beginning, you've got to be very engaging. Also, the brand name needs to be really even more visible than on TV. Not a good idea to use something where you reveal the actual brand. It's better to make it very prominent through the whole of the ad. And don't make it too cluttered, which a lot of advertisers are very, very guilty of. Too much content means that people can't actually see what is going on. So, I come to the final section. I think I've just got enough time to go through this, about how to communicate with Generation Y at TEP. First thing to point out is that Generation Y remain very uncynical when it comes to TEP. 91% of people say that they still actively celebrate TEP, which is very, very high. Interesting to see also that some of the more Western festivals, such as Christmas, Valentine's and Halloween, actually significantly celebrated by Generation Y. But still, TEP is what dominates, clearly the most important festival of the year. In terms of the top ads at TEP this year, Coca-Cola was the winner, which might seem a bit unusual to you because it's a foreign brand, and TEP's a very Vietnamese occasion. But it's not surprising to me because either Coke or Pepsi have won this award for the last 4 years. 3 times by Coke, 1 time by Pepsi. So let's have a quick look at the Coke ad and understand why this has worked so well.
Làm mới Tết, vui gắn kết.
Okay, why is that one so good? Well, first of all, it's very uplifting. But the clever thing about it, it actually acknowledges some aspects of TEP to young Vietnamese is a little bit boring, like cleaning the house beforehand. But he feels a bit better from that because there's the girl next door who gives him the Coke. And makes him feel better about the whole task, and then very uplifting ending. And you notice as well, it doesn't really rely on a voiceover. It's very, very easy to watch and involving. So, well done, Coke, in that case. My final slide, I'll get a question for you that maybe you can think of the answer for in the Q&A at the end. We've seen earlier from Chi's presentation that Facebook is very, very strong in Vietnam. Actually, Twitter is not widely used in Vietnam. So can you think why, in the context of Vietnam, why does Facebook do so much better than Twitter? Because in a lot of other countries, Twitter is huge, but it's not in Vietnam. No prizes for the answer.
Okay, so we have time for one question.
What about one answer?
Yeah, one answer. Anybody want to comment on? We have. Say your name and then respond.
Yeah, my name is Clark. I would like to answer the question. I think one of the reasons that makes Facebook more popular than Twitter in Vietnam is that Twitter has a word limit. Just 140. It's not enough for Vietnamese to show their feelings, to show their emotions, to show their events. They twist the game. I think that's one reason. Another reason is that when Yahoo 360 degree shut down in 2005, maybe Facebook is the first choice of some early birds here in Vietnam, which were very famous bloggers before, and that people, that such people live a larger community in Facebook. I think these are the two main reasons.
Yeah, and I think you're correct as well. I think that Facebook allows people to express themselves quite emotionally, whereas there's limits with Twitter. It's more about reporting facts, and with the Vietnamese language, you need more words to express yourself.